With the rising cost of living and with the government increasing requirements to come to Canada, the question is, should you even move to Canada? Is Canada still worth it? Or the Canadian dream is dead? Let's talk about it. We'll talk about pros, we'll talk about cons, about your personal situation. So by the end of this video, you will have an answer to the question, should you be moving to Canada? Let's get started. Before I share reasons to move or not to move to Canada, we need to do one important thing, and it is to evaluate your current situation. What are you doing right now? Are you studying? Are you working? Are you coming to Canada to study or to work? Or maybe you got PR as a skilled worker and you will be moving as a PR holder? Is your job in demand? Are skills that you have in demand? If anything happens and you lose your job, will you have the money to sustain yourself in Canada? How is your country of origin doing? How secure is your country? Maybe you're facing some kind of discrimination in your own country. Those are the questions you should be asking yourself, and you should have answers before you even decide to move anywhere. And I don't want to be like pro or against Canada. I just want to share realistic reasons, and let's start with reasons to move to Canada. First of all, Canada offers a lot to new immigrants, from education to work. I've spent almost 7 years in Canada. I got education. I started and built my career. Canada is home to high-quality institutions like top universities in the world: University of British Columbia, University of Toronto, McGill University. And the price is still pretty affordable compared to, for example, top universities in States or in the UK or in other countries. Similar to myself, you can come to Canada and build your career from scratch. When I moved to Canada, I knew nobody. I started from zero and I ended up building my career. And on top of all those opportunities, Canada's immigration is pretty much easy/straightforward. Once you get your 1 year of experience, you are eligible to apply for different immigration programs. And speaking of immigration, reason number 2 to move to Canada next year is because immigration is really simple. Canada is one of those countries that offers easy immigration pathways. Take USA. After you graduate, you will need to find an employer who's gonna sponsor your visa, and then you should only work for that employer. In Canada, you study, you get your open work permit and work wherever you want to work. Like, it's not limited to a particular employer. And after you get your work experience, you can apply for immigration programs. And the amount of immigration programs, well, other countries can be a little bit jealous here. We have Express Entry that includes skilled workers, Canadian Experience Class, Federal Skilled Trades workers, provincial nominee programs, family sponsorship, business immigration. Like, there's so many ways to immigrate to Canada. And processing times are not that bad, especially if you look at Europe, for example, France, Spain, Portugal. I have a friend who got her Canadian citizenship, including passport, in 6 months. In Portugal, I know a person who waited for the processing to begin for 3 years. So Canadian immigration is pretty fast, I should say. And another major reason to move to Canada is because Canada is a safe country. Yes, the situation with homeless people has worsened after COVID, but I feel like it's everywhere like that. And it's really funny to me when I say Canada is safe and there are people in the comments like, oh no, you don't know what you're talking about, there are crimes in Canada. Brother, petty crimes like somebody stole your bicycle is not a crime. There are countries where the war is happening, so stealing a bike versus a war, you know what I'm saying? Even take the United States of America, your neighbor. Like, I mean, Canada is a safe country, trust me. I think it really depends on your background, on where you're coming from, because for some Canadians, stealing a bike is a big deal. For others who are literally fleeing their countries because of the war, it's like nonsense. But enough of the good stuff about Canada. Yulia, tell us the real deal. Now let's talk about reasons not to move to Canada. And the first one being, Canada is so freaking expensive. Take anything from rent to cost of living. I feel like the prices skyrocketed over the past few years. If you wanna get a lunch, it's at least 20 bucks for a freaking Thai Express combo. Since when? 20 is a cheaper version, like 30 easily. You wanna go to a restaurant? 100 without drinks. And music shows are my favorite. 150 minimum for GA ticket. Well, Ticketmaster, hello, what's happening? And I'm not even talking about rent, because rent, like a studio in Toronto, 2-3K easily. Excuse me? And the salaries, well, they're fine if you live with roommates. So if you're planning to come to Canada and your job is not in demand or your skills are not in demand, you will have a hard time covering your expenses. It's not like 2016 when I moved to Montreal and I rented my apartment for $800. Can you like find something nowadays for $800, like a parking space or maybe like a garage? I don't even know. And on top of high prices, you have high taxes. And on top of that, you have tipping. We saw a video this morning with my husband and it's just ridiculous. Restaurants are asking for 30% tip. I don't understand why employers are trying to like delegate the salary part to the customers. Like it's your job to pay salaries to people. Why am I supposed to tip 30%? It's not 10, it's not 15, 30. I mean, it's not a major expense. If you don't want to tip, don't tip. But still, like, what is happening? The bottom line is, if money is a concern, you might as well just move to Europe and find a cheaper place there. However, if your goal is immigration, well, European immigration might take some time. Reason number 2 to not move to Canada is that the job market is really competitive. Again, it comes up to what you do, what's your field, but if your job is not in demand, your skills are not in demand, you'll spend so much time looking for a job. If we take students, for example, Canada just extended its policy about working full-time. Cool story. But can those students find jobs and work there? That is a question. I feel like if you do proper research before moving to a country, if you explore the job market, see what's happening, like what are the tendencies. For example, there is a healthcare crisis in Canada, so if you're a doctor or nurse, you might come to Canada and like everyone will be willing to take you. But if you're not in that industry, please do your own research, please check what jobs are available so you don't come to Canada and then like, oh, there are no jobs available. And if you do have a medical condition, I'm telling you right now, do not move to Canada. Because as I've mentioned before, healthcare in Canada, sorry, not sorry, it's bad. Like, there are no people who can work at the hospitals and everything. The doctors are Russian because you have a certain number of people you need to see. And if you're lucky, you'll get to see your specialist within a few months. But if you're not, a few years. Like, I've heard so many stories from friends where they're like, oh, my kid is sick, I want to do like A, B, C, D, E. They gave them appointment like 7 months later. The kid is literally cannot breathe. It's like asthma kind of condition. They're like, yeah, well, we're busy. Maybe like in 6 months you can come. What? And don't even get me started on getting a family doctor, because I've spent almost 7 years in Canada. I did not have a family doctor because the wait time in my area was around 3 years. 3 years to get a family doctor. However, I know cases when people move to suburbs and they get a family doctor within like 6-8 months. And the worst part is I got messages from my followers saying they moved from Europe to Canada and now they're moving back because the healthcare is so terrible, they just cannot. Literally, somebody messaged me saying I almost died because it took so long for the emergency to come and pick her up. She was like, I thought I literally would die. No joke. So if you have a medical condition, I don't think Canada is the best place for you, honestly. There are so many better options, even in Europe. Like, just, yeah, Canadian healthcare, unfortunately, is not doing great at the moment. But at the end of the day, there is no such thing as a perfect place. You just need to find a place where you will be okay living with those disadvantages, with those flaws, if you will. For example, I really love Canada, I love Montreal, but with the current situation with healthcare, I don't see myself moving there anytime soon. Because in Portugal, I can literally go see a doctor tomorrow because I have a private insurance, I have private healthcare, and if I think, I don't know, my eyes twitch and I want to see a doctor, I can do that and not wait for like years. So you need to find that place that's gonna be great for you. And if you watched this video till the very end, I want to thank you so much. First of all, we've just hit 100,000 on this channel. What is happening? I'm speechless. Thank you for your support. Thank you for being here with me. I wish you all the best in the upcoming year. Happy holidays. I hope you are all safe. And as always, see you next week. Bye.